Hey everyone, welcome back to Cooking with Insentra. And today what we're going to be doing is cooking with Insentra and Citrix. I'm joined by Danny Beck, Marketing Director for Citrix in Australia and New Zealand. Danny, welcome mate, great to be cooking with you. How you doing?
Pretty good today, pretty excited. I love a good pasta.
Yeah, so have you ever made a gluten-free pasta from scratch?
Unfortunately not, but I'm sure I'm going to learn something today.
Well, it's not hard to make pasta, it's just flour and egg. But what makes it interesting is the whole lamination process, which we'll get to. In the meantime, I'll get it going. I'll get some flour in here. And so it's really 1 cup of flour, 2 eggs, stick them in. So Danny, mate, we've been working with Citrix for quite a long time now. 7 years, I think it is, that Insentra's had a relationship with Citrix. It's been quite a while.
That is quite a while. How have things changed over the years? What's changed? What's working? Where have you seen the big differences?
Yeah, it's a really good question. We've been working with partners now for 11 years. And when we started the business, it was all about plugging a gap for them. So if they didn't have solution architects when they needed them, we could do that for them. If they then didn't have enough resources to deliver, we'd then do the delivery for the partner and then maybe even some managed services. And that sort of worked really well for us for a number of years, but we've seen the industry really shift. So over the past few years, what we've noticed with a lot of the partners is that they're choosing now very particularly what they want to focus on. Because technology is classic, right? Technology gets broad and then it gets narrow, and look, this stuff's already coming together. That's a good news story. You can hear it starting to come.
I'm getting hungry already.
Maybe we're going to start kneading that. You want to get involved in the kneading process, Dan?
Absolutely, my hands are clean.
That's come together. So yes, a couple of things that we've seen that's really interesting is that a lot of partners are really taking care now and being very cautious as to what they invest in. And they're investing in a new piece of technology and investing skills in how you work with different, it's expensive. To sort of get skilled up and then to keep people and keeping staff engaged is also very interesting. So we're noticing now that a lot of partners are coming to us saying, I don't think we want to do this stuff anymore. We'd rather that we just get you to do that so we can focus on what it is that we do really well. Do you want to get involved in this, Danny?
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Do some of that.
Okay, so tell me, what is it that you do really well and how are you different?
Well, we're different in a number of ways. Firstly, we've trademarked the term partner obsessed. All we do is work with partners. We don't ever transact direct with any end user organisations. We will only ever work directly with a partner, and we're there to help the partner grow. So to either be their capability or to augment their capability. So, over the years now, it's been, as I say, 11 years. We've done about 3,500 projects all around the world. We've grown, we've expanded into the UK, we've expanded into the US. So those operations are really starting to kick goals for us now. And really it's just testimony to the fact that the problem exists globally.
Okay, are the markets very different? Do you see the same challenges or are they different or unique?
I think every market's different. Even in Australia, every state is different in the way that you might interact with a customer or you might sell to an organisation, but the challenges are still the same globally.
Right.
It's just the scale that's a little bit different. Mate, you're doing an excellent job there.
I've got no idea what I'm doing.
No, that's fantastic.
I'm not even Italian.
Well, I'm going to take it from you right now. And what
there
we're going to do is we're just going to take this little bit of pasta that we've got. It's a little bit dry, so we'll see how this one works out. We'll work it out. We're just going to roll that up and split it into 4 and keep going. So yeah, the different locations that we work in, sure, we'll just get some Glad wrap to keep that there. And even though the markets are different, Danny, one thing we have absolutely seen that's totally similar is, like the portfolio of offerings that that partners want to take to market is so broad and it's so hard to invest in everything. So now we're finding as well, particularly with the alliance, say with Citrix and Microsoft, we have Microsoft partners who are now wanting to have conversations with Citrix, right? And how can they help their customers move Citrix into Azure, for example? And those partners, they're classic Microsoft partners that don't have Citrix capability. Or the flip side exists, where we have Citrix partners that don't have Azure capability. And so there's always somewhere with a partner where we can define a swim lane, where it's like, okay, here's what they do, and here's what Insentra does. And what is it that Insentra does that they don't do, that they now want to take to their customers? Because immediately by working with us, they get an advisory, professional, managed services capability in all the things they don't have, and they don't have to invest. So that's what's sort of really fueling our growth. I'll just get all this stuff out the way. We'll put that in the sink, get these things out of the way over here.
That's really interesting. And tell me how
it's time for a glass of wine, Danny.
I think we should have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
And tell me, how has your relationship with Citrix changed over the years, and where have you seen things improve? Where has it grown? What have the challenges been?
We've had a really outstanding relationship with Citrix, I must say. over the years, and when we started, of course, it's like, hey, who are these guys at Insentra? What's their business? What's their business model? How can the business model actually help Insentra? Here you go.
Thank you
How
very
can
much.
it help?
Cheers.
Citrix, cheers. It's nothing like having a drink when you're making some pasta. So over the years, what we've actually noticed in our relationship with Citrix is it's matured, as one would expect.
Yep.
And we get a lot of support from Citrix. I've just put, by the way, this in. This is what we're going to use.
It's a very professional looking KitchenAid. I
Yeah,
have
I
no
know.
idea how to use it.
Well, you know what it is for me as well? It's all the gear and no idea. So we're going to have a crack at it and see what happens here as we put this through.
Oh, I didn't see this attachment.
Oh, you
here.
didn't see the attachment? Well, the
No,
attachment for
it's
some
like-
reason hasn't seemed to take. So let's keep talking while I get that rectified, because for some reason it's not actually doing what it should do.
So tell me a little bit about your relationship with Citrix and how things have changed and moved over the years.
I think over the years, as Citrix has introduced new technologies, one of the challenges a vendor has is bringing in a new technology and getting a partner to want to skill up in it. Because from a partner perspective, they have to take people off billable work to get them skilled up, to then maybe go and use those people in different work, to do the new technologies. So as Citrix has evolved and as Citrix has brought in new technologies, they've worked with Insentra to skill us up so that we're able to go to market straight away with them, and they can go to partners and say, look, until you're ready to skill your own people, and even if you're not, Insentra's ready to go, you can start working with them. So for those partners that we already are working with, Citrix will take us in, help us work with them. We also work with the account management team and do strategy. We work with you and help to do some marketing of
Some
Citrix,
fantastic marketing like today.
which is clearly what we're doing today, more of our outstanding marketing here.
Not really impressed with my own cooking skills, I have to say.
Well, you just
I
have to
kind of
sit
feel like
there.
I need to be doing something more here to add to this delicious meal.
Oh, trust me, once we get to cooking the sauce for this, and we're going to make an ottolenghi sauce today.
A who?
Ottolenghi.
Oh, okay. I don't know Otto.
Yotam Ottolenghi, he's a fantastic chef, has amazing recipes. We're going to be doing one of his pasta sauces today, and I promise you I'll get you a lot more engaged at that point. So you can see now this is laminating really nicely, so we're having a good day today. We've got this looking really good, and now what we're going to do is just put it through, get it a bit thinner, change the attachments, make it into some nice tagliatelle.
All right, try not to drop
we'll
the
get
attachment.
going.
And while you're on
I'll
that,
do my
talk
best.
to me about the training, because you mentioned before training is obviously key. How hard is it to keep up with training, and how do you find the Citrix training and the certification? Does it give you the qualifications that you need? What additional support do you want?
Well, look, I think when it comes to training, you've got to keep training. You've got to keep abreast of what's going on, and customers are expecting that you know what you're doing. That it's not just the training that matters. It's actually very much as well the experience. So you can train and you can be book smart, but having the experience and seeing things happen actually out in the field, well, that's a whole different world.
Yeah.
So this is now split up a little bit, but that's okay. We're just
So
going to
the
have a few
real
shorter
world
pieces.
experience is just as important as the certification and the in-class training.
Correct. That's exactly right. And that's where a lot of our focus is. We try not to put, and because of our model, because we work with partners.
So it's only partners?
Only partners. We never transact direct with an end user organisation.
Okay.
So we're there to help the partners grow. And what we find, now watch this is like one of my favourite parts, because we take this in, goes in as one piece, comes out as multiple little pieces.
Wow.
Look at that, Danny.
I think we have a budding master chef here.
Look at that. I definitely don't think that, but there we go. That's ready to go. We'll hang that up there, and then we'll get the next
We've got a
lot
little
going.
clothesline.
We'll get the next lot going. Very, very good.
Wow.
So yes, what's important is because we're doing work for our partners, what they expect is that we're going to have people in our crew that are equally as good as the people they would want to hire themselves.
Right.
So we make sure that we work with our crew, help them to invest in themselves, because training's not just about delivering something for us as an organisation. It helps the individuals and it helps them do more and be more valuable in the market as well.
Well, I know at Citrix, we spend a lot of time on training, certification, investing in
crack at
partners.
this?
Yeah, I'll have a go.
There you
All
go.
right, swap. Where do I turn it on?
There we go. I'll turn it on for you. We'll swap.
And just put it through?
Put it through.
I've got no idea what I'm doing.
That's okay. It's not hard to put something just through there. That's it. Let it come out in one piece. Now what you need to do is put it down flat.
Yeah.
Fold it. No, you don't have to put any more on there. Fold it over there. Fold it over there. And put it down now. 90 degrees opposite to what you had it. No, that's the same way. That's just turning it around. That's 90 degrees.
Right.
There we go. Excellent. Excellent.
Oh, it's going to be a long day.
It's marketing, not mathematics for Danny. There we go. Yep. No, that's turning it around. There we go. No, maybe. Go. Just
There
have
is
fun.
no maybe.
Have fun.
You know,
have fun.
when I'm on this side of the camera, I'm in charge.
Okay. Let's see what happens.
Okay, now you fold it.
Because you're in charge. Okay. There we go. Look, we fold that way.
Fantastic.
Got it. So sorry, you were saying.
So we invest a lot in training and certification, but I'm wondering what more we could do for you as a partner to really grow your business.
That's a really fascinating question. Given your role in marketing, but obviously as a senior exec at Citrix, you have an influence over everything that we would do. And I think in terms of what could you do that would be better for us is really helping us to get ourselves known in the market. So not just locally, but also on the global front. We have done some really interesting exercises with Citrix at a global level. So now what you know what we did? We didn't go through the smaller pieces. That's my bad.
Okay.
We're just going to
That's
make
your
it thinner.
multitasking here.
It is, thinking about what can you do to help grow our business. It's always a question I like answering. So what we do now is we just make this get thinner and thinner, Danny. And
Okay, here we go.
You don't have to be folding anymore, so you won't have a challenge
That's
now.
fantastic. I am definitely challenged.
So what could Citrix do to help us more? We really like everything that Citrix is doing, to be fair, and getting partners to be aware of our model and helping the partners understand that we truly are. No, keep going.
Keep going, okay.
We've got to get thinner. We've got to get it like that.
Thinner, okay.
And so it's helping partners understand that we are really there to help them grow. We're there to help Citrix grow as well. To fill those gaps, fill where there's a partner out there that doesn't have skills, or Citrix who's you're bought a new company recently. And everything that you're doing in this new intelligent workspace is not traditional Citrix space, so your partners are different. And what you need from your partners is different. Now we've got that thin.
Right. Mine is not looking as good as yours was.
But you know what? It's only your first rodeo. It's not mine. So
Right,
now
I want to give
happens.
this a go now.
Give this one a go and watch how
absolutely.
it breaks up. Let's see. And then we'll start getting the sauce going. And I'll let you, now that I know you can do this, while we get the sauce going,
Oh,
I
look
might
at
have you
this.
do more. We'll just
Kind
grab
of,
that.
sort of, not know what I'm doing.
Right, not bad
I'm definitely
at all.
not applying for MasterChef.
Well, you've done well. And there we go.
Perfect. There we go.
All right, we'll just hang that up there.
Right onto the clothesline. Beautiful.
There we go. All right, Danny, so, here's something I prepared earlier. The pasta is now all ready. Now what we're going to do is, before we make the sauce, let's have a limoncello shot.
All right, let's go for
Let's
it.
just
I
do a
love this.
limoncello shot.
Authentic limoncello, is it?
Authentic limoncello, Villa Massa. The product,
Wow.
look, it says Piano di Sorrento, Italia. How was that for an
Beautiful.
Italian accent, huh?
Pretty good, actually,
Look at
for
that.
somebody who's never been to Italy.
You have never been to Italy?
No, you've never been to Italy.
Oh, multiple times.
Really? Actually, one of my favourite
Multiple
places,
times.
Positano.
mio.
Positano, you get some of the best limoncello.
I've been on the gondolas. Don't drink without me.
I'm not.
Wait for
I'm
me,
just
wait for me.
Smelling.
All right.
All right.
What's an Italian cheers?
Cheers.
Is it Sante?
I don't know.
We'll
Cheers.
go with that. Sante.
Sante.
All right, now, let's get this going.
Beautiful. This is
We've
going.
got this going over here. We'll put some oil on.
All right.
Get the oil a little bit warm, and then we'll throw in the onions, Danny.
Fantastic. Here are the onions. So while you're
Look at that. That oil's already hot. We've had that pan heating up nicely.
while you've got that going, we've had a huge growth in our business at Citrix over the last 12 to 18 months. Traditionally, we're known as a VDI company, but our portfolio of technologies is far broader than that. So let's talk a little bit about the growth in remote work over the last 12 to 18 months and what you've seen in the market from partners and customers and how things are changing.
Yeah, well, just as I get this starting to be coated a bit in oil, we'll just have to keep our eye on that. Look, I think the past 2020 was an interesting year for everybody. Everybody knows that 2020 was kind of that year, and there were a lot of great things that happened in 2020 as well. But I saw a number of things happen, not just from a remote work, but even from the way partners were looking and evaluating their businesses. So clearly what happened was everybody ended up starting working at home, right? And even today in 2021, there's still some countries around the world that are in full lockdown and everyone's still working at home. That initial peak of getting everybody from the office to home made Citrix that much more relevant for all of the customers that were out there, because immediately they needed to have remote access capabilities. They needed to ensure that their Citrix platforms could scale. Cloud became more relevant. How do we get people at home? How do we make Citrix Cloud grow? How do we get that to scale very rapidly? How do we get our ADCs, or what some people may have known as net scalers, to scale quickly?
Yep.
And partners were scrambling because that wasn't the only thing that needed to happen. It was communications and what could people do with Microsoft Teams and how could they make all of that work together. And partners were scrambling. Customers were scrambling. And that was where our business model actually started to really resonate with partners because they were like, wow, we need to grow, we need to scale quickly, and we need people who actually know what they're doing to come in and help us do that. So I think the whole remote work thing has now changed dramatically. And in fact, I'm going to be talking to one of your colleagues, Safi, shortly, and he and I are going to cook together too.
Wow.
And talk specifically about remote working. But you know, at a high level, what we saw was customers were struggling to get people to work from home. We have one customer, for example, a health organisation in one of the states in Australia, I think that's probably going to not let anyone know who they are, who had an environment where they were having all of their clinicians, in fact, all of their office were using Citrix, but it was very different when they started to have to connect from a remote site.
Yeah, it brings up a lot of challenges, especially around security. Noticed that a lot of customers, they had remote working, but it maybe wasn't as secure as it could have been. They may have needed to scale out the technology. It's different, right? When in pre-COVID times, maybe 5 or 10% of your workforce was working remotely, you had a very different mindset. Suddenly 95% are working remotely. It completely changes the way you have to approach the solution, the implementation, the technology itself.
100%.
And we saw huge demand in some of the Citrix security and application delivery processes.
No question. And I think as well, like what was happening with Citrix traditionally, prior to everyone having to work at home, was that people would use Citrix potentially if they were on the road, or if there were some areas, say in health, where the clinicians all worked in that scenario, and that was a given, nothing changed there. But the other sort of side of Citrix is when people were connecting using Citrix in the office, the desktops were a known commodity. They were managed by the organisation. Now everyone's at home with desktops that are home machines, with internet connections that are non-secure, with all of those types of scenarios coming into play, and they're connecting into a corporate environment. We have privacy regulations. In the UK, there's GDPR, there's HIPAA, there's all sorts of different things that customers needed to concern themselves with, and all of a sudden that just went boom.
Yeah.
And so what we found was that at a customer side, they just had to make stuff happen. And a lot of the security, it's like, yep, we'll take care of that later. We just have to get people working, particularly, as I say, in health. Financial services, similar. Everyone was concerned, how do we get money? How do we move money? How do we do that? And so what we saw was a real peak and a spike in demand for, let's get this going. And Citrix responded to that really well.
Yeah, we had a program, and I think a lot of people had never really focused too much around business continuity, right? And suddenly business continuity programs, or BCP, became mainstream. People were talking about it, barbecue conversations. Well, we weren't having barbecues by themselves. But I mean, even I know for me, having been in information technology for 30 years, I've approached remote work differently now. I mean, somebody said to me the other day, how do you describe what Citrix does? And I said, well, that's a really good question. I think to really get it to its pure raw stage, it's really all about enabling people to work on any of their devices, in any place, at any time, securely. Yep. And I wrap that securely around it because that's the real
And that's the stuff most people understand too. Okay, so you can make me work at home, but securely, everyone seems to understand securely.
Yeah.
And they think about it as antivirus, and they think about it as malware and those sort of things, but the way Citrix approaches it is a much broader level than that. And once again, I think your partnership with Microsoft in that space and that ability to rapidly scale and to do so in a secure fashion has been really significant. And I think what also was great that insofar as what Citrix did was how you made the licensing happen for the client, so that they could take a 6 to 12 month license gain or to grow without contracting themselves in, knowing that maybe they would scale back. And of course, now what we're seeing is that it's not about what are people doing then, but now, even in our organisation. And this is really interesting, and I think this is consistent across a lot of the partners we work with. 50% of our crew are very happy to continue working at home. In fact, our UK and our US crew and our Melbourne crew have always worked from home, and now our Brisbane crew and our Kiwi crew always from home. The only place we had an office was Sydney. And our Sydney crew are telling us, we don't really want to come back to the office. And you know what? We're okay with that. And those that do want to come back to the office is fine. But for us, we were already set up. We were remote working to start with. That's the way we set our organisation up, and it was easy. So it was wonderful to be able to work with partners and help the partners scale with their customers with that peak that happened. And now what we're seeing, I'll tell you actually, Danny, it's not even about now what we're seeing. There was a really interesting shift, and I've just got to make sure these onions are caramelising well.
Caramelise those
Otherwise,
onions.
we are not going to have a fantastic sauce for this pasta.
Actually, it's funny because people say, so do you work from home these days? And I say, no, I live at work. And that's kind of a flip side to the working from home. I now live at work. So I've had to change my mindset.
And look, that's a whole other discussion that we can spend time on in terms of working from home and the implications and presenteeism and those sorts of things. And culture is critical for us at Insentra, and we really focused on how our crew are, mentally positioned, not just in terms of what they're doing with work and creating the segregation between work and home. It's like I go from my bedroom to my office to my bedroom. It's like it's all one place, to your point.
Yeah.
So where I was going before in terms of what we saw different with partners is nobody knew what was going to happen. And nobody actually understood what the impacts were going to be to their business, including us.
We didn't know.
No one knew.
And we saw growth, but we didn't know what sort of growth. We didn't know the demand. We didn't know how customers were going to really need our technologies to enable them to basically scale out their businesses. Yep. So there was an unknown for everybody.
Yep, absolutely. And so what ended up happening is we saw a lot of the partner community concerned about cost. Even though they had this spike in their business because there were certain pockets of growth like remote work with Citrix, like Teams, etc., a lot of partners found that a chunk of their business just died.
Right.
So all of the projects that were nice to have or efficiency-based, etc., and that weren't around the core of what was happening stopped. Those partners got very worried. Those partners now had, JobKeeper worked well for them, and in Australia and all sorts of different programs around the world worked. But those partners had a real aha moment of our business has been doing great because we're specialists in this, but now that we can't actually take our specialisation to market, what the hell are we going to do? And we still need to pay our staff.
Yeah.
And that's where the Insentra business model, and Danny, we're almost ready to add the tomatoes. We're not quite there yet, but we're close.
Okay.
That's where our model really started to resonate with partners, where they were like, how do we take offerings that clients need right now? Because partners have great relationships with clients, and the client says, I really trust you. I wish you could do my Citrix work for me. I wish you could work on my ADCs. I wish you could manage my Citrix environment because it scaled so quickly and we're not ready for it. And we don't know how to manage it, and we can't cope, and we're busy doing all these other things. Can you help us manage it? And those partners who are specialists in maybe application development or application modernization or something that was in a totally different field would have to say, look, I'm really sorry, I can't help you. And the ones that were clever were the ones that went, actually, I can. They contacted us and said, hey, we've got clients who need the services you can deliver. That's not our core specialization. Can you come and help us do that for our clients? So what was great about that was it generated revenue for them. It gave them some money in their coffers that allowed them to keep their crew. And I think what I was really heartened by through that time was so many partners were concerned about how do they keep their staff.
Yeah.
Right? And how could they leverage Insentra to keep their staff? And what I've now seen is a total mindset shift around what people were thinking about how to leverage Insentra as an organisation, from being not about, oh, you can help augment this, and yeah, if our customer wants it, we'll call you, to, wow, we can grow our business by working with you. And in fact, thank you very much. You've saved our business by being there for us. And that was a real shift we saw through 2020. Danny, I'm going to ask you, mate, we're going to put those tomatoes in.
Let's put those tomatoes in.
Let's get them in. Let's get the...
That's a lot of tomatoes.
It's a lot of tomatoes. We're going to let them settle. We're going to put in some harissa as well. Now, in terms of the harissa, we certainly do not want to be putting this much harissa.
Is that really chili?
It's chili.
Okay.
Can you imagine all of that in there?
No.
We only need about probably
2 teaspoons.
5 or 6 tablespoons is what we're going to do. And that's a whole lot more than 5 or 6 tablespoons. So I'm going to grab a tablespoon measure here because I'm not quite the chef that you might be purporting me to be.
It's starting to smell pretty good. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I think we're going to need, Danny, maybe just check that recipe.
Let's have a look here. It wants 3 tablespoons.
I'm making double batch here.
So 6.
6 tablespoons. In fact, you know what?
Oh, you're going to just chuck it all in?
I'm going to put it all in. It looks like it was about 6 tablespoons, so that's pretty damn good. And what else do we need to put in here, Danny? We got to put in
Let's have a look.
olives, capers. We'll give it the olives.
Take the olives.
And those capers.
There you go.
I don't like capers. I don't even want to put them in, you know. I don't really like them.
Yeah, but they're salty. I mean, it's nice.
Salty
Go and live a
goodness.
little dangerously.
Oh, okay. I might just have to pick them out. I'll be like the child in needs to pick them out. Yeah, so that's what we saw. It's really quite interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of customers struggle to scale. And even today, we're now, you know, here we are in 2021, and now it's kind of, and I don't know that this is necessarily the nicest of analogies to be using, but I will use it, and that is, it's like there's been a tornado or a flood or a fire that's come through, and everyone's now in cleanup. We did what we needed to do, we've got to the next level of stability, but we know we need to clean up. Like, what's our governance in teams? What are we doing to go to put some type of framework around that? What are we doing in our remote work now? We've got all these people who are using Citrix and it's working, but maybe it's not necessarily performant. And let's be fair, that's probably the biggest question that comes around Citrix is, you know, if there's ever a problem, it's a Citrix issue. And often it's outside of that. But most organisations don't really know where that is, and that's where we're seeing a big spike in demand as well is, can you come and make this environment performant? We've scaled it quickly, but we need it to be performant.
Yeah, I think that's been the challenge. They needed to get their remote working up and running for 95%, 100% of their orgs. Now they need to actually tweak it to make sure that it's efficient, it's secure, that it's actually working.
Yeah, exactly. You know what's great about cooking shows, Danny?
What's that?
There's always something you prepared earlier. So this here is now boiling away, but I've been sort of thinking about it, and the conversation that we've been having has really been about remote work and about sort of some of the Citrix tech. So I actually think what makes most sense right now is we bring in one of your experts, like your field CTO guy. He's the man who really knows what he's talking about.
The dude.
How about we bring Safi in, and you can sort of disappear, and then maybe I'll actually eat this with Safi.
I don't get to eat this?
No.
So I've done all the work and Safi gets all the benefits.
Sorry, you've done all the work?
You've done all the work and I don't get any benefit.
Correct. And I'm going to share it with Safi because he's the dude who really knows what's going on.
Sounds good.
Does that work for you?
Yep.
Danny, mate, thanks very much for joining us on Cooking with Insentra.
Pleasure.
It's been a pleasure to have you here, buddy. You've been actually a good help. You now know how to make your own pasta, so it's not like you're leaving here. You are going to leave here better than when you arrived.
Thanks for having me.
And for us here, we're better having you join us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, now that Danny's gone, here's somebody I prepared earlier.
Ronnie.
Safi, mate, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Welcome to the kitchen. You come at the right time. We're just about to cook the pasta.
I'm starving.
Are
And
you?
I heard you guys were talking about remote working.
We were. And so thankfully you're here because you really know what you're talking about.
I hope so.
It's great. Well, mate, we're going to cook the pasta and then we're going to sit down and eat. Do you want to
Okay.
join me for a meal?
Yeah, can't wait.
Excellent. Let's cook the pasta.